Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Veach Season. I am your guest host, Rocky Magaña. Welcome to episode 5463. As you can see, Krame Sansone has gone into witness protection program. If you're watching this on YouTube, you've seen that Krame Sansone is currently in the witness protection program, now going by the name Jared Sapp. He has had the face-off surgery. If you ask me, he now looks way more handsome than he used to. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do in order to survive in this world. And if the cartels are after you, it's a tough life. And so coming at us from an undisclosed location under his new sending a personality of Jared Sapp. No, I'm just joking. Kramer's sick today. So luckily we were lucky enough to get my buddy Jared Sapp from Arrowhead Pride, my fellow rider over there who covers the Chiefs with me. And he was a huge get because this is one of the smartest dudes in football across the entire analyst game. You're not going to find a bigger brain when it comes to football, just overall knowledge, contracts, numbers, prognosticating. He's just the dude. And so, Jared, dude, thank you so much for being on here with us today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Is Kramer really sick, or did the Raiders make him sick?
That's the deal. Was he shockingly the day after his team loses and gets their asses completely handed to them by the Chiefs, he's too sick to come in today. He called in sick with a Johnny Walker, he has a case of the of what do you call it, Johnny Walker-itis, I think,
I mean,
or he just doesn't want to face the music.
Gardner Minshew probably had about the best game he's going to have the rest of his career yesterday, and he still would have made me sick if I had to watch him and cheer for him.
I know, like when you watch other teams play football, it's like you almost forget how lucky we are as Chiefs fans to have the situation that we have. Like we're so far removed from the Tyler Palcos and the Damie Hewards and the Thig Bones and the Brody Croyles of the world that we like almost forget what it's like to be a fan of a subpar
Yeah,
football team.
I go back to Steve DeBerg and Dave Craig. Like we seen
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah, exactly. It's like our generation of football fans, we got a little bit of jadedness to us and a little bit of a still an empty look in our eyes where things are almost too good to be true and we don't want to believe it because we've seen too much. It's like, no, no, no. I lived through Herm Edwards and I saw what happened there, and I lived through what's his face, the golf player, as a head coach, and what was his name? I forgot. I'm drawing a blank all of a
Todd
sudden.
Haley.
Yeah, Todd Haley. Yeah, I lived through Larry
Him.
Johnson tweeting from the bench about Todd Haley, and so
He managed to win an AFC West title one year.
yeah, he did. He did.
He did.
In spite of his coaching, we managed to get an AFC West title. We also lived through. You're old enough, like I am, to remember the candy wrapper gate with Scott Pioli, and what a big fiasco that was with the candy wrapper in the stairwell. And
Shoot.
so it's good to be a Chiefs fan now, Jared.
Yeah. It's good to have made it through the 90s. It's good, it's
Yeah,
especially good to have made it through like the from about 2005 until Andy coming in 2013.
isn't it wild that the good old days are now? Like the good old days weren't good. The good old days are
Mhm.
now. It's like we're in the golden age of Chiefs football. What's your just before we get into anything else today? What's your general thought on the three-peat? Do you think the Chiefs are going to pull off the three-peat this year, or are you too pessimistic at your old age?
I mean, I don't know. I don't get I've never understood anybody who goes and puts a lot of money before the season on anything to happen because like I decide who I think is going to win the Super Bowl based on who's healthiest when we get to January.
That's
And
fair.
I've never got the people who are so certain. I mean, if I had to take the Chiefs through the field and I had to bet money that mattered to me, I'm probably still taking the field. But I don't know of any one team that I'm picking to win the Chiefs. I mean, the Raiders got possession on the 3-yard line and turned it over on downs yesterday. And
The best goal line stand you've seen from a Chiefs defense?
I mean, I thought the Chiefs defense was going to take a step back this year, and they might be better. I know we've got some major questions about one particular position, but I mean, they've had 2 games where it seemed like even a good defense isn't going to keep Bijan Robinson from converting 4th and 1. A good defense is not going to stand on that goal line against the Raiders and not give up a touchdown. I mean, it's exceptional. The Chiefs have an exceptional defense, and I mean, it's still not always pretty to look at, but the Chiefs offense has now scored, what is it, 26, 28, 27 over their past 3 games. I mean, they're not slouching.
No, and with a defense like this, you have to think there's not going to be many football games they're going to lose if they score 24 points or more.
Right.
And so they're going to at least be coming down to the wire with a chance to win if they score 24 points, because there's not a lot of teams who are going to score more than 24 points against this defense, especially with the schedule the Chiefs have remaining in the regular season. I mean, right, they have the Houston Texans, the Buffalo Bills, and maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are the ones that could probably threaten to score
And
that many points against them currently.
and let's watch Stephon Diggs. They've been awful Langley about what's going on with Stephon Diggs, but you leave with a non-contact knee injury, and there's not any word the next day that he's just fine. That's not adding. And the Texans are a great team. If everything was going right, I might even say the Texans have the best roster in the NFL. The Texans have not done well at pivoting. I mean,
Mm-mm.
that game Joe Mixon was out. They couldn't get it. They looked terrible against the Vikings. Like
Since Nico
when everything's
Collins,
per-
they
when
haven't
everything's
looked the
perfect, I
same.
think they've got the best roster in football. They're not doing a great job of pivoting when things go wrong.
No, they're not at all. And they only have a plus 9 point differential on the season. They've only lost 2 games, but
They should have lost.
there's been a lot
They
of
should have
close games.
lost yesterday.
Yeah, they should have lost yesterday. So for people who don't know, Jared's down in Texas, specifically in the Dallas market. On a scale of 1 to Deshaun Watson level freak out, how concerned are Cowboys fans about the Dak Prescott contract in his current play?
Right now, I think they're kind of in fantasy land that a new coach is going to come and fix some things. Um, the coaching's just terrible. Like,
Yeah.
like Rocky and I are old school Chiefs fans, and we probably remember when the Kansas City Star was the only place to see any kind of Chiefs news. And way, way, way back when they used to rail the Chiefs quarterback coach, who was a former Baker University tight end named Mike McCarthy. And they
Yeah.
used to be like, this is the guy, this is the reason why you're not winning any games, any playoff games with Steve Bone or Elvis Gerbax, because this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Somehow, years and years and years later, this man is coaching the Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, because he coached the Green Bay Packers for years and years and years, and somehow lucked into a Super Bowl with a young Aaron Rodgers.
He happened to be the head coach that one time Aaron Rodgers put down the conspiracy theories and just played out of his mind for 6 weeks.
Yeah, and actually focused on
Like,
football.
and literally, we probably have some fans who don't even remember that long ago, but that last 6 weeks, the last couple weeks of the season and the playoffs, like you might not ever see a quarterback just take it on himself and go on a run like Aaron Rodgers did that year.
No, he was the dude. He was doing those Patrick Mahomes-ish type things in his youth. I
And
remember watching
an
him in
evil
that
come
game. Go
an
ahead.
abomination crossed over between Todd Haley and Romeo Crennel could not have ruined Aaron Rodgers that year.
Yeah, no, they couldn't have. I remember watching that playoff run by Aaron Rodgers with my buddy Wes, who's currently staying with me. He's down here as an insurance adjuster for the Storms, and me and him were watching it, and I just remember looking at him and saying, "Why can't we get a quarterback like that? Like when will the Chiefs have a guy who can throw on the run like Aaron Rodgers does. Well, obviously we have a guy who's better than Aaron Rodgers now, and I've never been happier.
Just better commercials too.
Yeah, much better at commercials and much more likable human being in general. Um, and you don't see Patrick Mahomes yet. I mean, he's still young, so there's still time for it, but you don't see him smoking peyote on darkness retreats in the off season, like you do
Not yet,
Aaron Rodgers.
but
Not
he's
yet,
about to
but
have a third. He's about to have a third kid that does stuff to you.
and I tell you what, once he's going to be a billionaire at some point, and once you become a billionaire, something in the wiring of your brain changes and you start doing weird shit
Yes.
anyways. And so who knows? Before we know it, he may be, making his own clothing and going on darkness retreats in the off season and refusing to wear shoes and only eating hemp salads and God knows what else. But hopefully he stays just a good old Texas boy from White House, Texas, who puts ketchup on his steaks and eats Whataburger and slams Coolers Lights in the off season and likes to play beer league softball. Because I trust that guy with my team more than I trust peyote smoking darkness retreat, barefooted, make your own clothes, join a cult type of guy like Aaron Rodgers. And so, all right. So for those of you guys who don't know, also, our guy Jared here is a high school teacher, right? You teach high school, correct, Jared?
Yes, high school math.
So he's high school math, not high school physics. So he is not Walter
Oh.
White. He is not a Breaking Bad situation. He is just a straight up normal math teacher. But what's up with kids these days? I got a couple of questions for you. You see more kids these days than I do, and I'm a bit of an old dude, obviously, and I don't understand things. And there's some things that I hear and like kids say that I don't understand. Like for instance, like my friend's kid keeps on saying skibbity toilet. Like, what is a skibbity toilet, Jared?
I don't know, man. I'm looking it up. It appears to be some kind of YouTube web series.
Oh, okay.
And
Like,
I mean, I'm getting old enough. Before I came on here, literally I ate dinner with my wife and on Paramount Plus we watched one of those tacky, terrible CBS shows that gets advertised every damn commercial of the Chiefs game. Like that's where I am. I
yeah,
don't get what a web series is.
it's
Podcasting is about as close as I'm getting these days.
that's as edgy as you get is podcasting. So just kids in
That's
general these days, how do you feel about the youth of America and the future of our country?
um well, I teach in, Dallas Fort Worth area and, right now they don't really have football heroes of their own, so there's a whole lot who have like latched onto the Chiefs now, so that encourages me a little bit.
But
And
they,
then there's just so much where I'm like, I can't do this.
uh,
Y'all's I'm gonna be 20 years from now, I'm gonna be going in to have a cancer removed, and as I'm going down to sleep, I'm gonna hear the surgeon watching a YouTube video says like, "What's up, guys? Today I'm gonna teach you how to remove a tumor from this dude's spine." Like, I can't.
either that or it's gonna be like Chat GPT. Please tell me how to remove cancer from this guy's
Yeah,
spine.
yeah, this is where I'm at. So kids are
How many?
depressing. I can't do it. I'm glad I got a 7-0 football team to cheer on right now.
How many on average? How many of your kids try to cheat using Chat GPT in your classes?
There's something called photo math where like you can literally take a picture of like a math problem and it spits out the problem. It spits out the answer to you, and then they're always like, "Oh, I forgot how I got that answer," or dumb shit like that.
Yeah.
It's 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 like the Jamarcus Russell, like, yeah, I watched film. I'm like, no, you didn't because we gave you blank videotapes. It's like it's that
Yeah.
level of stupid that I can't.
Oh God. Well, you're a better man than me because I don't know if I could if I'd have the patience that you have to enlighten the
And if
bright young
anybody
minds
has like an
of our culture.
opportunity But if anybody listening has an opportunity to make sports writing my actual job, I think my Twitter, X, whatever Elon's calling it these days, is on here. Please, please, please hit me up.
He's open. Your LinkedIn, it's like open for opportunities or whatever. And so anybody wants to hit him up, he's
Yeah,
the smartest guy on the face of the planet. We're talking to you
yeah.
over the cap at a spot track. We're talking to you, every single analytics firm out there, because you're not going to find a smarter dude who knows more about football. So if you don't get this guy, it's your loss, boys.
Thank you.
No worries. So now we have the time of our show where every week where we call the Madden hotline and we bitch at them until they make Kareem Hunt an 80 or above. And they recently raised him up to a 79, which I really felt was like trolling us because he was a 78 previously. And they thought, oh, let's just put him as close as we can to an 80 without actually doing it to piss these guys off. And it worked. I'm very easily antagonized in that manner. So what we're going to do is we're going to call him real quick and we'll have this week's edition of Calling Madden and bitching at him until Kareem Hunt's an 80 or above. Kareem Hunt is an 80 or above. So here we go. Let me just type in the number here.
Hey, it's Ocho. You read the Madden ratings at just the hotline. Leave a detailed message telling us who you think should have a higher rating and why. But you better bring us some facts we haven't already considered. Otherwise, don't even bother.
Your message will be recorded. By leaving a message, you grant EA permission to use your message throughout the world, in perpetuity, on its social media platforms and websites, and represent that you are at least 18 years old. You further agree that we may call you back regarding your message.
Hey, it's your best friend Rocky Magaña over here at Veach Season calling you back about Kareem Hunt once again. When are you guys going to get it through your damn skulls that Kareem Hunt is worth being an 80 overall, not a 79? I saw you guys trolling us last week. I saw you trolling us, and yet you pumped him up one just to keep him underneath an 80. But this is like our 50th call in the row, which is only one less than the number of children that Ocho Cinco has. And that is probably the level of bad decision making that you guys are making by keeping Kareem Hunt out from being an 80 overall. The man is the workhorse. They packed the box against him against the Raiders, and all he did was fight for hard yards. That's all he does is fight for hard yards. He protects the best quarterback in the NFL. He grinds it out. He never complains. He's excellent out of the backfield. I mean, if the future Super Bowl champions and the back-to-back defending champions have him as their workhorse back right now, there's no way that anybody on the Chiefs who's a starter should be below an 80, especially their starting running back. Like, you're just throwing off the balance of the entire game. Like, who would want to play with a Chiefs team where their starting running back is a 79? That's bullshit. And everybody knows it. You're making your game suck. That's why everybody likes NCAA football better now, is because there's no competitive balance because the teams are super out of whack because the ratings aren't based on actual performance anymore. You got to get it updated. And if you don't, the people will not be silenced. We're going to keep calling you back and bugging you until you change it. This is Rocky Magaña with Veach Season. We will not be silenced. We will be calling you back. Thank you. All right. Good to get that out of the way this week and get it off my chest. Sons of bitches. Gets me all riled up. But yeah, so we will not let you guys down. We're going to keep this up until they make Kareem Hunt an 80 overall. Even if it takes into the offseason and after his retirement and even into next year. At some point, Kareem Hunt will be an 80 overall on Madden again. Okay, so moving on, it is the time of the week where we look and see if we have any 5-star reviews for this week. And it looks like we have one new 5-star review. Thank you very much, guys. Remember, always rate and review 5 stars. Any review you put on Apple Podcasts about Foolish Club Media in general, we read every single one live on the podcast. Doesn't matter what you put. You could put some Elon Musk level shit on there and we're still going to read it, even if you sound like a complete cuckoo bananas. You can talk about what's his nuts Kennedy, how you chopped off a whale head with your daughter and made her help you carry it home so that you could mount it on the living room wall, or where you got brain worms. I don't give a shit, quite honestly. Just 5-star review. I'll read whatever you put up there. It could be a brownie recipe. I really don't care. But today's 5-star review comes from Nostradamus 88. It's an awesome name. I love that name, Nostradamus. I can already tell that you're a wise person who can see into the future. And the 5-star review is titled Best Source of Chiefs News. I'm already liking where this is going. This is the best objectively subjective source of Chiefs news out there. Listening to Rocky and Kramer on Veach season is my favorite show on the podcast. Aw, Thomas, you got me blushing now. Stop. Thanks, man. Rocky demonstrates brilliance in his analysis of the Chiefs roster and game plans, and Kramer also brings some excellent insight into the various topics they ramble about for an hour before getting into Chiefs news. Any word on Amenahue and when he's projected to return? Can you imagine the pressure the D-line would get if he comes back? It sure would help make Jalen Watson's replacement job a lot easier also. Any status you have on Amenahue would be awesome, and keep up the great work. Polling for Foolish Club Media's long-term success. Mom, what have I told you about writing reviews underneath a synonym and a ghost name? I don't know if Nostradamus is actually my mother, but Nostradamus, if you are not a woman from Olathe, Kansas, who lives in her 60s named Vicky, then thank you very much for those kind words and for saying that I'm brilliant. I would say there is a numerous people on the internet that would contradict those claims, but I won't be one of them. I'll just accept the compliment and say thank you. As for Amenahue's status, Jared, yeah, so Charles Amenahue said a few things on social media recently about his status and when he's coming back. What's your take on Amenahue's timetable for return?
So it seems like he's kind of been ramping up his presence on social media lately, and I don't know that there's an official rule about it, but let's just say after years of covering the Chiefs, if you're injured, the Chiefs like you to stay kind of out of sight, out of mind. I think that they would probably be very much discouraging his presence on social media if there was any kind of setback. In training camp, I think we all kind of heard November's realistic, and the kids will have already trick-or-treated. We'll already have changed the clocks by the next time the Chiefs suit up. I don't think it's going to be this week, but I think he'll be back probably sometime by the end of November. I don't think they're going to put a whole lot on him until the playoffs. I think he'll probably be back sometime in November, kind of ramp up and have training camp on the fly in December, because they've paid him a lot of money to be injured this year, and they only really care about what he can do for 1 month in January. That's all they care about.
Without a doubt. I think so in the offseason earlier this year, he was on the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams, and he said that his goal was to be back in time for the Texans game because he had unfinished business with them because he felt like they gave up on him. And then they shipped him off to the 49ers. He also feels like he has unfinished business with the 49ers too. So, but yeah. So that's 3 weeks away, right?
Christmas.
Yeah, I think so, right? So it's Texans. I think isn't it? So we have Bucks. Is it Bills and then no? Hold on. What's the Chiefs schedule? We should know this. Hold on. This is what we call
Broncos, Bills. Their next 3.
Okay, Broncos, Bucks, Broncos, Bills. The 3 Bs are the next. The Chiefs' next 3, and then after that, the Chiefs play the. Hold on, look at the schedule here. They play Bucks, Broncos, Bills. They play the Texans on December 21st, so right before Christmas. So he said he wanted to be back in time to get payback against the Texans, which would mean that he would be there for the final 3 games of the season, which I guess would be kind of a ramp up for the playoffs. It seems like he might be on a little bit quicker timetable than that. Like not by much, but maybe a week or two prior to that. I know that he has his YouTube series. And on his last YouTube series, he was going into the doctor to get cleared for running and cutting practice and like to try to build up his start getting back into football shape. And then he said on Twitter that he got good news from his checkup with the doctor. So, who knows? Take that with a grain of salt. What a player says when a player thinks he's ready versus when the doctor thinks he's ready are two totally different things versus being in football shape. But I think that probably somewhere late November, right, is probably what we're looking at. Probably the next Raiders game in Arrowhead, November 29th, you think? Somewhere around in there.
There's also, though, if after that game is probably going to be like the Chiefs' last real chance to make big changes because they kind of have a little bit of a mini bye in 9 days between playing the Raiders on Black Friday and playing the Chargers on Sunday Night Football the week after.
And that's true. So maybe they'll hold him out for the Chargers game.
So I think you'll see him sooner than later. I don't think you'll see. I think once they activate him, I expect him to get the full 3. I don't think it's going to be something like we've activated him from injured. We've started his practice window and activated him. Once they start the practice window, they have 3 weeks. I expect him to take the full 3 weeks in practice before being activated. I mean, you're talking about an injury that happened in calendar year 2024.
Yeah, so we're talking like maybe they activate him the week of the Panthers and then he plays the week of the Chargers 3 weeks later, something like that.
All I think they care about is whenever their first playoff game is, which right now looks very likely to be the second week of the playoffs. I think they care that he's able to take a semi-regular workload in the playoffs. I don't think they really care what he does as long as he's getting back on the field and getting his rust shaken off.
Yep. I agree with you 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. Moving on. So there's a slew of roster changes that are going on right now for the Chiefs. Most of them good, some of them not so great. So obviously, since the last time we had an episode, the Chiefs traded for DeAndre Hopkins. He played in a limited fashion. The fact that he played at all against the Raiders is an excellent sign for where he's at and what the Chiefs think of him, because they wanted to get him in the game, even in a limited fashion. And I think you saw in his limited reps, he still has a lot in the tank. He might be the best route runner that Patrick Mahomes has ever played with, and that's including Tyreek Hill in my mind. He's excellent in contested catches. He doesn't drop any passes. Sure, he's lost a step, but he's as savvy as Travis Kelce is at finding like holes in the zone and getting open. They could definitely use him as a power slot, I think. What's your take on DeAndre Hopkins so far, Jared?
I was actually surprised that the Raiders stacked the box as much as against Kareem Hunt as they did, because my thought had kind of been, I think he'll be on the field, but I think the net effect is he's going to be lightening the boxes, and the Chiefs are going to keep just trying to pound it at people. I think DeAndre Hopkins is a great addition. Again, like Charles Omenihu, I think they only really care about what he does for one particular month.
Yep, I would agree with that. I think that I mentioned this on the post-game show. I think that the Raiders, a lot of them loading the box wasn't loading the box against Kareem Hunt, but loading the box against Patrick Mahomes and trying to do their Mahomes rules where they put hands on him as much as possible and make him uncomfortable and light him up and bump him and try to get in his head. And in their efforts to implement the Mahomes rules, they inadvertently stacked the box against Kareem Hunt, but they also put everybody in man coverage on the outside on one-on-ones, which turned out to be kind of a stupid decision by Antonio Pierce. Shocking. The Raiders made a dumb decision. Something that they are like, they give hang a banner in the rafters at Allegiant Stadium for dumb decision making for the Las Vegas Raiders. With DeAndre Hopkins contract, I don't know if you've looked at it at all. How much money are the Chiefs on the hook for with him?
So I don't know that that's ever actually been finalized, or ever actually been published. Let me look at over the cap real quick. Um, over the cap, which isn't always perfect. Um, there's not there's not been any kind of like real adjustment on. Nobody seems to know the final answer yet. Um, the indications we got was that the Titans were going to pay about half of his base salary, which would have been um, about $2.8 million prorated through the year. It's I kind of feel like that small restructure they did for Jawan Taylor probably was the amount they needed to cover DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think they were just creating cap space to go spend more frivolously.
Okay. Yeah, I don't necessarily think so either. They did make another move today as well to bring in an edge rusher. They traded a 6th-round pick to the New England Patriots to bring in
26 sixth round pick.
a 2026 6th-round pick. So, woo, that's a pretty steep price for a guy who had 11 and a half sacks in 2022. I know that he obviously when he lost, some of his running mates there, and they had a switch of leadership in New England, it affected him. But he also was dealing with knee and ankle injuries last season. His production did go down to only 3 sacks in 2023, but in 2022 he had 11 and a half sacks. 6'1", 240 pounds, so not necessarily a prototypical Spags edge rusher, but also, I mean, if Mike Dana has shown us one thing, it's that non-prototypical Spags edge rushers can have some success in this defense. And is this just them just trying to add another bullet and just kind of push it over the top for when a Minihue returns in this run? Is this a sign of FAU's not panning out the way they want them to, or is this just a deal that was too good to pass up?
I think it was just a deal that's too good to pass up. Like it's about to be Christmas time. Have you ever gone into your favorite restaurant and you're getting takeout and you see there's a deal where if you buy a $25 gift card, you get a $10 gift card for free, and you're like, I already got my food tonight. I paid for my food tonight, but that's just too good of a deal. I'm going to go ahead and do that because I know I'm going to be back here. You can't have enough edge rushers. According to Pete Sweeney from Arrowhead Pride, which Pete's one of
If
the
you could trust that guy,
good dudes in the business, but if he puts something that he's heard from a source up, it's really good information because I know there's stuff that other people would post that he knows that he sits on and doesn't always feel like he wants to be the one out there on this. And today he said that what he knew was that the Chiefs see this as a way to really just have a 5-man pass rush rotation heading into the playoffs, which would include Ominahu, it would include FAU and Dana. I don't think there's any indication that Dana's, you know, he's injured, but I don't think there's any indication they think it's going to be a long-term thing. I don't think there's any sign that anybody thinks Ominahu is going to have any kind of setback. FAU, we're kind of to where he is who he is. Like he does not feel like he got great value for a first round pick. He's also taking some snaps and doing a competent job, not spectacular. It's kind of starting to remind me a little bit of like early career Mike Dana, where he is lights out against the run, but the perfect storm of things had to happen for Dana to have any pass rush impact early in his career. That's kind of what I'm seeing from FAU right now. I think it's just unbelievable value. Um, I don't think there's a whole lot the Chiefs can do to really improve cornerback. I know we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but if you can't make your cornerbacks better, you can at least shorten the time to throw.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what they're thinking, is that they don't see a lot of opportunity out there to really bring in a stud corner. And so they're like, okay, well, then let's just make the opposing quarterback as uncomfortable as possible. Speaking of cornerback, we'll jump over to that really quick. Outside cornerback specifically is definitely a need, especially with Najee Johnson going out with a concussion. Get a healthy dose of Chris Rowland Wallace and Joshua Williams coming up if the Chiefs don't make a move. But there's not a lot out there to make a move for, Jared. I mean, in free agency, there's J.C. Jackson or Xavier Howard, and you kind of feel like if the Chiefs had any interest in any of either of those guys, they wouldn't still be sitting there being the veterans that they are, right? And they wouldn't still be on the market.
I mean, Xavier Howard has been one of the really both J.C. Jackson and Xavier Howard have been among the highest paid players at their position. I mean, think about whatever job you do and imagine that you're going to get fired from the job you're at and someone else is going to say, we'll pay you 1/8 of what you're used to making for the year to come do the exact same thing. And being an NFL player is really hard work. I think if Xavier Howard was likely to accept somebody's offer, it would happen by now. You kind of need to watch what happens week 10, week 11, because there's still time for these guys to sign and get on a roster and accrue a season. Once there's fewer than 6 games left, I think that ship's probably sailed on them. J.C. Jackson, I mean, is there evidence that he's a better player than Joshua Williams? And I'm not a Joshua Williams fan. Is there evidence J.C. Jackson's a better player today than Joshua Williams or Najee Johnson?
No, there's not. No, not since he left New England. He has not been nearly the player that he was there.
And cornerbacks hard to predict. I mean, when J.C. Jackson signed that monster deal with the Chargers in free agency, like 2-3 years ago, nobody thought it was a gross overpay. I mean, it kind of looked like a bargain contract for one of the best cornerbacks in football. Look at our friend L'Jarius Sneed. Has he switched systems? Has it really worked to his benefit that much? He's not playing well. Unless you've got just like an elite guy, and I think the Chiefs have one of them in Trent McDuffie, it's really, really hard to predict what these guys are going to do when you change their system and change who they're playing around.
I don't disagree. One guy who I think has it's a little interesting just because he's been playing such a bad team is Greg Newsome from the Browns. Is reportedly on the trade block. He's only 24 years old. Seems like a Brett Veach special at cornerback. But then again, is he going to be able to come in and be better than Joshua Williams?
And what are you going to give up? Like, the Chiefs can't really trade their 4th or 5th round pick because both picks are tied up in the DeAndre Hopkins. They don't have a 6th round pick this year. Their 7th round pick is probably tied up in minor trades. Like, are you going to overpay? Are you going to trade a 3rd round pick for Newsome and get a 4th back? Like, these aren't going to be easy trades to make.
It's true. It's true. It's something you definitely have to consider when you're.
And the Chiefs also, they're not flush with cap room right now. And
nope, they never are. But that's also why they have when you win back-to-back Super Bowls, that's what happens. And then when you continue to add talented players to those rosters, that happens as well.
I mean, at this point, I think probably signing a free agent I would not be surprised if you see a J.C. Jackson like signing to the practice squad at some point. Like, we're going to give you 2 weeks and see what you can do. 2 weeks from now, do you look like you're a better? It wouldn't surprise me if they sign a veteran to the practice squad, kind of to push Joshua Williams and Najee Johnson, but there's just not a lot there.
So, which of these former Chiefs players are they going to sign to the practice squad? Steven Nelson, Rashad Fenton, or Bo Peakeys?
I get a lot of shade for this on Twitter. I if I were the Chiefs, I would have tried to talk Steven Nelson out of retirement. I mean, I think he was a very unpopular player on his way out, and he said some things about the team on his way out that I'm sure have not been forgotten in the front office.
Mm-hmm.
the body of work he did as a member of the Steelers and the Texans since leaving the Chiefs, I don't think you can say, oh, it was Nelson instead of, oh, it was Bob Sutton.
Yeah, 100%.
I'd be
100%.
calling it. That would be my first call I would make. If I were Veach, I would ruin whatever goodwill you've made this week with DeAndre Hopkins and Joshua Uche. I would ruin any goodwill you've made by calling Steven Nelson, but I, I think he's retired, as in, I know I'm not going to make the money that's worth my time to suit up, so I'm retired. That's my thought.
Yeah, yeah, and can't blame him. He's made enough money in the game that why would you? All right, really quick before we move on to get a quick Bucks look ahead before we get out of here. Is Jody Fortson done? If this is a serious knee injury, is his career done? Is Fort's season officially over? If this is as bad as it looks.
Again, I thought it was kind of weird we haven't really heard anything through like a day. Like you would have thought Andy would have had something to say about it when he spoke on Zoom to media on Monday. I don't think you can come back from another major injury at his age, at his size. He does not have like a body type that really lends itself to like good recovery from injury. Like he's probably going to be in pain the rest of his life.
Yeah,
You you've done all right. You can get a
join the
job
club,
coaching
bro.
somewhere. You can get a
Yeah,
job coaching somewhere saying I've been around, this Super Bowl championship team. I know this, this, and this. You can get a job doing something. If it's a major knee injury, get your knee right the best you can, and you more than accomplished. You more than exceeded any expectations coming out of a D2 school to join the Chiefs.
I agree 100%, and it just sucks because big Jody Fortson fan over here at Veach season. It's always Fort season in our
And
hearts over here.
and I mean, think about it. His stats have never been spectacular, but some
Mm-mm.
of the absolute best work Travis Kelsey has ever done has happened with Fortson on the field.
Yeah, he definitely takes attention away from Kelsey in order to allow Kelsey to work in space because he's a guy who stretches the sideline and is a contested catch guy. And he's great in the red zone. You have to pay attention to Jody Fortson in the red zone, and that frees up Travis Kelsey. Okay, let's look ahead to the Bucks really quick before we get out of here today. So, all right, so obviously this Bucks team looked a lot more dangerous when they had Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, on the roster. Sterling Shepard was also injured last week. I'm not sure on his status will be for the Chiefs game. But we're looking at a passing attack that's going to feature Trey Palmer. And then they have a couple of pair of decent young running backs in Kansas City's own Rashad White, and then Bucky Irving out of Oregon last year. He's really great out of the backfield. He's a great receiving back. And then Sean Tucker is another young running back they have. So they have some juice in their backfield, but they're also going against the best rushing defense in the NFL. So whether or not Baker Mayfield is a lot like Jameis Winston in the sake that he likes to try to test the defenses and push the ball downfield when he doesn't have to, and make some bad throws. He's prone to some bad throws. What's your take on Chiefs versus the Bucks, and what kind of game are we going to see in this one, Jared?
I think you're going to see one of the better Chiefs performances of the year. The Bucks they have two of my favorite people from the draft in Jalen McMillan, their wide receiver out of Washington. He's the third wide receiver from the Huskies who didn't quite get the attention. He is a really fun player, and I mean Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving is who we were promised Clyde Edwards-Helaire would be.
Yeah,
He's not fast, but he gets those dirty yards and he's doing exactly what he did at Oregon in the pros. I'm just not that worried about the Bucks. I know I should be. I know it's a live opponent, but they don't look like a team that's ready for Monday Night Football at Arrowhead. They're missing one. They're probably their second best player in the secondary, Jamal Dean. He's on injured reserve. Their best player in the secondary, Antoine Winfield. He's kind of been beat up in and out of the lineup. He's doing fine.
We're
I
also missing
I
Tyke Smith, who is a decent nickelback.
I think we're gonna
Yeah.
see a pretty good solid Chiefs performance. Chiefs has also done quite a bit better in the last couple weeks against tight ends. I was really worried about what George Kittle was going to do against them. I was really worried about what Brock Bowers was going to do against them, but they've gotten better with that right now. Their leading receiver yesterday was Kate Otten. He's another draft crush of mine a couple years ago, but he also has a little bit of focus issues bringing in the ball. So I think the Chiefs are going to find some ways to exploit that.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen McMillan is a really nice slot receiver. I liked him a lot coming out last year. He was injured through most of Washington's season, but in the national championship game, he was probably their best wide receiver, in that game.
And
And so he's a good player.
if I had a yeah, I thought if you had Mike Evans to pair with him, I think, wow, if I had Mike Evans, that's exactly who I would want. Although the Bucks already kind of had that with Chris Godwin.
Yeah, 100%. He was a little bit redundant until both those guys went down, and now he's needed. On the defensive side of the ball, just really quick, they do have Kalijah Kancey, who was a huge draft crush of mine. On the defensive line, he's kind of an edge tackle hybrid, a little bit undersized, but has a lot of juice. They also have Yaya Diaby, who was a pass rusher out of Louisville last year, and was an underrated player coming out in the draft, and I like him a lot. Whether or not he's good enough to be an every down like substantial contributor in the NFL, it still remains to be seen. But he definitely has the potential. So there are some players on this Bucks team to keep an eye on to be worried about. Like it's not like they're playing against the Carolina Panthers or the Cleveland Browns, but they are beat up. And like you said, I don't think they're ready for prime time. All right, so we're gonna get out of here
And I
in a
feel like
second.
the Bucks.
Yep.
I also feel like the Bucks are one of those teams where I don't think they have a whole lot more to go to in the playbook. I think they had the things they've been successful with. I think they've put enough things on tape that I think the limitations of Baker Mayfield are starting to show, especially with the wide receiver injuries. That always would be an issue. But I think what you can do with Baker Mayfield as your starting quarterback is probably on tape now. Like so
I
far
would
his
agree with
career
that.
has been so far his career has been once there's a book written on what he's doing, he doesn't adjust.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. And I mean, he's a competitor, but he is a smaller quarterback as well. And so I think you're pretty much spot on with it there. Um, well, Jared,
And
dude,
I'm not going to pick a
well,
Chiefs blowout. When I write my prediction, it's probably going to be something like
what is your
Chiefs
prediction?
28. I mean, I'm going to have to look at injury reports and see what's going on, but it's probably going to be, I mean, I make a pretty similar prediction every week. Usually it's probably going to be Chiefs between 24 and 28 and probably Buccaneers between 14 and 20. Like, I'm probably going to predict Chiefs 27, Bucks 17, something like that.
I'd go with it. I'd take it. I'd take a 10-point victory any day in the NFL. Well, Jared, before we get out of here, tell everybody what you got going on over at Arrowhead Pride or just in general. Anything you want to talk about. This is your moment to shine. Here's your soapbox. Whatever you want to get off your chest, whatever you got going on, have at it, buddy.
Um, it's my pleasure to cover the news every week on Arrowhead Pride. This week we'll have media on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday because everything's pushed back a week. I've also really enjoyed this year taking over the 5 questions with opponent websites on SB Nation. I've enjoyed getting to talk with some other really talented writers who cover other teams. If you get a chance, please check those out when those go up later in the week. And I I don't know if years just got us addicted to panic about the Chiefs, but I think we're panicking too much. We're a 7-0 team. We've scored over 25 points 3 games in a row. It's not always pretty, but like we've had 2 games in a row now where by the 10-minute mark of the fourth quarter, there hasn't really been any doubt who's going to win. I just, whatever happens this year, I think we just need to be enjoying it more.
I agree. I think that like I said, we're in the golden era of Chiefs football, and we just need to enjoy the ride. Because if the Chiefs do complete the three-peat this year, it's going to go down in history as one of the greatest of all times, as one of the greatest teams in all time, one of the greatest dynasties of all time. And you don't want to look back on it as the guy who wrung your fingers through an entire three-peat, title run. Just sit back, enjoy it for what it is. If it happens, awesome. If it didn't, still awesome because we've won back-to-back effing Super Bowls.
And the Chiefs do not care. They don't care about your fantasy football team. They don't care. Right now, they don't even care about how good Patrick Mahomes' stats are. There's going to be years in the future that he can pad his Hall of Fame counting numbers. All the Chiefs care about right now is what happens in January.
100%. The Chiefs don't give two shits about win differential. They don't give two shits about how much they win by. They want to get enough wins to get the first round bye so that they're healthy in January and they can make a run. I honest good to God, and it's gonna piss off a lot of people. But if the Chiefs roll into week 18, 16-0, and they bench Patrick Mahomes, people are gonna flip their shit in Kansas City, and I could totally see it happening. Like without a doubt, I can see it happening.
I agree. And it would be the right decision. And we'll see what the Broncos are playing for then. I think the Broncos have benefited from a pretty soft schedule that has really benefited a quarterback who I still don't think a whole lot of. But if week 18 comes and the Chiefs are undefeated, good luck to Carson Wentz defeating the Broncos.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, good luck. And I think that the Chiefs could still maybe beat the Broncos and go undefeated with Carson Wentz starting for them against Bo Nix and Sean Payton. Well, Jared, I won't keep you any longer. I know you're a family man. I know you got work tomorrow, as a lot of us do. You are always welcome on Veach season, and you are always we're so lucky to have you on here. You're such a smart dude, and I really, really appreciate you coming in and pinch hitting for Krame Sansone. Hopefully he turns up sooner rather than later. I don't know if he's sick, if he's on a bender, if he lost a bet, like if he put money on the wrong horse. Like I'm sure he'll turn up at some point. We'll just see what state he's in and if he's good enough to go by next week. But thank you so much for coming on. He's at Jared Sapp over at Arrowhead Pride. Check out every single thing he does. I'm at Rocky Magaña. Please like, rate, and review everything. Any last words before we get out of here, Jared?
Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much. Be good to each other. We hope we've earned the privilege of your time. And life is short. Just love everybody. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks.